Right, afternoon, Omar. We'll have a second go of this,
Yeah.
having recorded it once already. So, obviously, first of all, I wanted to talk through some feedback from today, just to go through it really quickly as a highlight of the sort of practice that we've seen this term. Today, obviously, trying that really hardline thing of group work within your secondary education. Um, I was really impressed that not only were you really confident with going in and really well planned with all of those resources, but the engagement factor that we aimed for with that group work was really there. It shone through as a really big strength. Students were engaged from the very first moment. They were excited. There was a real buzz in the learning, and the feedback that I had around the room was brilliant. Your instructions were clearer. Your questioning is developed. The feedback that you were going through around the room really, really strong. So seeing all of those smart targets sort of over the term developing into that is really good. Um, with that in mind, maybe we'll start off with the idea of how your sort of teaching and the observations and feedback, how has that worked for you so far this term?
Yeah, they've been super helpful. Obviously, we got the feedback form, and that helps as well in terms of the way it's like laid out with strengths, weaknesses, then all the core strands as well. Yeah, it really helps me in terms of I have the three strengths, so I know exactly what I'm doing right. You're telling me how they're demonstrated, so you're telling me exactly when I did it right. So sometimes where I might have done something passively or not noticed it, you're letting me know when I've done it. Same with the weaknesses. You're highlighting, so for example, if there's maybe some behavior management that I may have not stamped out on, you're sort of highlighting, okay, this is when that happened, so I know exactly when it happened and what I can do in order to fix it. So yeah, it's been really good, and I do have Anthony as well who fills some of these out for me. So being able to teach your class and his class at the same time with the same sort of lessons, I'm able to take the feedback from one lesson and then apply it to the next, and in that way sort of continuously evolve with my lessons and my planning and things like that. So it's yeah really helpful.
Yeah, so in the talking through that feedback, how do you tend to like sort of focus on I'll take that strand and I'll work on it, or do you tend to just focus on the one smart target, or do you tend to try and take all of those different areas to work on?
So I look at it as a whole, but ideally I just focus on my small target because I know that if I try to tackle everything all at once, it's not really going to go well for me. So focusing just on the small target, it's great. It's right at the top of the feedback form. I know exactly what I can take away essentially to work on right off the bat. So yeah, that's definitely really helpful as well.
Okay, good. With that, obviously, you're going around, you're seeing other teachers and their practice. You're going through all of that process of picking up the best possible sort of strands of people's teaching with your observations elsewhere. How's it been going through and seeing a lot of teachers that actually are beyond our subject? What's it been like going in and seeing their stuff?
Yeah, I think it's very helpful. I think off the bat you kind of automatically I guess dismiss anyone who's outside of your faculty in terms of oh that won't help me. But you've been really super helpful with my with on my timetable. You have a list of different teachers and their strengths. So some of them will have differentiation as their strength, some of them with behavior management, some of them with questioning. And I think me being able to have space on my timetable to have open observations and choose who I want to is really great. So with maths, for example, Tom Shaw, he has a very lower ability class, so scaffolding is really showcased well there. Same with behavior management as well. So I think that's such a great thing to be able to do because those sort of things are still relevant in my subject. It's still consistent throughout the school. So yeah, and everyone else has been really super friendly with it. So being able to step into a classroom, observe something that I want to focus on, it's really super helpful. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And I think it's been definitely an eye-opening experience because I really don't like maths, and being able to go into a maths, maths observation and actually take something from it is super helpful and not something that I genuinely expected at first.
Okay, good. So you're taking feedback from us, you're taking the best practice from other teachers around the school, and then you've obviously got the input from GLF, those bits on a
Yeah,
Wednesday, and the CPD that you have alongside the other trainings from skits and PGCEs on a Thursday after school here.
Yeah.
How are you finding using all of that and working together with other people in those areas?
Yeah, it's great. Harry's part of my skit, so I see him on Wednesdays as well. So it's always helpful to have someone who's doing the same essays and the same sort of learning that I'm doing in terms of Wednesdays and over here. So that's really, really super helpful because sometimes you might get a bit confused or I don't know. I think last week I think I missed one of the Wednesday sessions, so I was able to then talk to Harry, get some notes, talk to him about what happened, things like that. So it's really, really super helpful. In terms of the other PCTE and other skit people as well around here, lots of the time we're bouncing ideas off each other, talking about what went well whenever they go through a lesson. I always like to ask them, oh, how did it go? Like, what kind of feedback did you get? And just sort of go through it with them because sometimes I think, well, with you, always comfortable when we're talking about my strengths and weaknesses, but I understand that some people might take sort of criticism sometimes a little too harshly. So being able to discuss it with someone who I feel like isn't a teacher or a mentor can sometimes be helpful for other people. On top of that, some people with like their lesson plans, they might ask for ideas of like, oh, I've got like this lesson, but I'm not entirely sure how to start it, or I'm struggling with like transitioning from one task to another. How are you doing it? And that sort of thing. So we're all sort of learning together. So it's quite nice to understand that you're not by yourself. There's more people who are also having these issues, and you can work on them together. Essentially,
yeah. I think that discussion that you seem to be having in terms of the pedagogical approaches to different stuff. There's nothing but benefit that we can get from having those conversations with people that are potentially tackling it in different ways, and it opens us up to it. So that's really good to hear. So you've worked with us in the department, you've worked with going out and observing other people. You've also been working with the sort of wider school ethos with the tutor group, where you're with Year 11, my year group, and helping with things like open evening. How have you found that side of the school life?
Yeah, really enjoyable. Obviously, I did open evening when I was a student myself, so I kind of understood it from a student perspective, but understanding it from the school's perspective and a faculty's perspective is really, really interesting as well. So sort of you can tell what exactly that school is pushing, what their ethos is, sort of what they want to present to the parents and the students especially. And on top of that, with history especially, I thought it was quite interesting to see that engagement especially, and making sure that those who want to join that school are really engaged with history, really passionate about it, and really enjoy it, and making sure that with our display that we put up, we've got really engaging pieces of work that have been done by students previously. We had our own sort of Spot the Difference with Churchill and a couple of other prominent figures as well, and that sort of interactivity and things like that, always getting them engaged. So it's not just, oh yeah, you should come here because our history department gets loads of A stars, for example. It's more so your child is going to be really engaged, really informed, and essentially going to enjoy the lessons as well. So yeah, that's really, really good in terms of the open evening. Tutor groups, like you said, I'm with Year 11, which is great. Really enjoying it because slightly more mature, so you can talk to them more in terms of what they want to do in their future, their careers, and things like that. Every 2 Thursdays, I sort of talk about career path and things like that as well. So last Thursday, I did one on just university in general. So I gave them some top tips, some sort of things that I went through and experiences that I went through that I thought, well, that were kind of unexpected for me. So maybe letting them know what they are would help as well. And then on top of that, sort of different kind of paths to university and things like that, BTECs, things like that. And yeah, it was really interesting. Told them where they could find me, gave them my email and stuff like that in terms of my school email. And if they have any questions, they're able to ask me or find me wherever.
Yeah, I mean that's really good. It helps build those relationships. It's showing that you're engaged in that side of it. And for me, as like head of Year 11, looking at that going, well, that next step, that big picture for them, which is so important, you're linking in. With looking at that, so that ethos of building students and helping them reach their God-given potential here at Bishop One, and the ideas you've taken in terms of engagement from the open evening, has that like affected or driven your like teaching practice in any particular direction so far?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say definitely the engagement aspect of open evening for history, especially. I like to make my lessons really focused mainly on discussion. I don't like too much silent work. I know there are some who quite like lecturing and just reading off a PowerPoint, whereas I feel as though students are more likely to get to learn and to retain that knowledge if they're involved and they're engaged consistently. So yeah, seeing the sort of activities that we use during the open evening in history and sort of the work that's being produced, yeah, that definitely sort of helped me to reaffirm that engagement is key, and engagement is such an important thing, especially in just learning and in lessons in general. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So I think that really shines through with your teaching. I think that engagement and wanting students to be involved in their learning as much as possible. It's not too like overly structured in terms of like following a very set thing where you do one activity that's like A, then B, then C, and each lesson is sort of in the same mold. You don't get that. You change it up. All of those key points are there, but you're not sort of following a basic system. With that, let's finish off with like what have you enjoyed so far this term? What do you feel like you've really developed and worked on and key strengths, and what's something that you want to work on further when we come back after half term?
So yeah, first of all, I've just definitely enjoyed the teaching. Really, observations are really really helpful, but sometimes I feel like they can sometimes get a little slow, and you kind of just want to get up there and sort of teach yourself. So I really really enjoyed the teaching aspect, and having these engaging, fun lessons and sort of interacting with the students and getting them involved with history as well. Really really enjoying that so far. I'd definitely say strength is definitely questioning. I like to use it quite a lot in my lessons, and I like to sort of see how that student is reaching their answer. So if they give me their point, what kind of evidence are they using? How are they analysing that evidence, and how does that link to their original point to make sure that it's consistently relevant? So yeah, questioning is really really good, and it can help sort of guide students in the right direction towards their answers as well. To work on, I think behaviour management in terms of sort of following through with detentions and things like that. Sometimes it can get quite hectic in a classroom where I'll give someone a warning, but then not notice that I've given them a second and a third, for example. So, and still not giving them a detention, for example. So yeah, I need to definitely stamp down a little bit more and sort of push through that sort of barrier of, you might seem a bit mean at first, but at the end of the day, if there's a valid reason as to why they're getting the sanction, then it shouldn't matter. They should understand that. And what's good about this school is the restorative conversation after getting detention and things like that, so they understand what they've done wrong and they understand what they can do better following it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of those things where I think consistency for behaviour management is one that we all need to be really conscious of all the time. I have been teaching for 7 years, but I still need that moment of, oh, actually, I'll probably let that person get away with a little bit too much there. What would you say, like, yeah, I think that obviously we all want to build up that consistency, and not being afraid to, have to hammer down at times is a good thing. What's your strength in terms of like behaviour and how you built those relationships up with? Because there were definite strengths in there as well. What would you?
Yes, praise and things like that, especially. So, well, looking at the students' books and things like that, those who've done particularly well, giving them a nice message. Those who might need a bit of improvement, telling them that they do need that improvement, and then subsequently praising them when they show that improvement through sometimes through sweets, sometimes just through general praise, stuff like that. So I think that's just genuinely a good strength as well, like in terms of just praising and telling them that they're doing a good job when they're not.
Yeah. I mean, I think the relationships that you built up with those classes already, especially with 8S for me, you can see that practice in there. So yeah, 100%. We always want to push ourselves. There's certain things that we can always be better at.
Yeah.
Consistency's in there. There's always something else that you can do in terms of a lesson. There's always more differentiation you can do, but remember that there are those strengths alongside as well, and you've shown across the board. I've been really impressed. I mean, the fact that you've taken over 2 classes pretty much completely now.
Yeah.
You're over a dozen hours of full hour teaching, just shows the progress you've already made. We're really, really happy with how you're getting on. So
Sweet.
Well done for a wicked first half term.
Cheers.
Anything else that you want to go through at all?
No, that's all good. Just looking forward to coming back after half term and carrying on with the work here.
Yeah, hitting the ground running. Right. Well, thank you very much.
Cheers.